Hey, you just hopped into an episode of Profoundish. This week, Weston, Hasty, and I are talking about our experiences in the workforce. And what Weston doesn't know is that later on, we're going to be ranking jobs in a tier list based on how sexy they are. Which job's the sexiest? You're just going to have to find out. You're listening to Profoundish. Greetings, everybody. What are you? What was that? Hello. Hello. You know, I never know what sounds are going to come out of your mouth. I really don't. Do you?
No, never. I think I was about to make a sound. I don't remember now. I think I was about to say something, a word or something, but then you went greetings, so I tried to stop myself, and that just turned into me croaking.
Well, listen, if you want all the croaks, everybody, listen to Profoundish. And guess what? You're here. You're listening to it right now.
If you want to listen to the choicest of croaks, keep listening.
Hey, Weston, what'd you do today?
Oh, God, I have done nothing but play XCOM.
okay.
I've been doing this for the last 2 days. I re-downloaded and installed XCOM Enemy Within that came out like a decade ago now. I play XCOM 2 a lot just for fun, and I downloaded the first game, played it, beat it today, and I'm like, oh man, it's over. Well, I guess I should get some work done. And then I had the thought, I've never played the Bureau XCOM Declassified. This came out in 2000, 14, 15, something like that. Never played it, but I have it. A lot of people didn't like it back in the day because it's like a third-person action game instead of a turn-based tactics game. And I'm like,
yeah,
it got a lot of hate back in the day. And so I've been playing that literally up until just before we started recording. Right now, I'm playing it.
Well, that's great because this episode... No, I'm just kidding. This episode's about video games. It's not. We just did that. But I was going to say, you kind of touched on something, which was, I could have been working, but I just played games. And that's kind of what I've been doing, too. And it's been really nice just to kind of unwind and just play. You know what I learned about that, though? I learned that, I mean, I guess it makes sense, but it's hard to have a different perspective when you've just loved video games your whole life. But I was talking to Steph. For those of you who may have just been tuning in, Steph is my significant other, and she was having a rough day, and she just wanted to unwind, and she didn't know what to do to unwind because she rarely has that time. So I just started throwing suggestions at her. She's got her Switch. She plays some games sometimes, and I mentioned, well, yeah, why don't you just pull out like one of your games that you've been playing? She's like, well, yeah, but that doesn't relax me. And then that made me, once again, I was coming in from my perspective, which is,
right.
Why doesn't it? It should relax you, right? But she's like, no, I love playing games, but it works my brain, and it doesn't, it activates different parts and turns other parts off. And how do you feel about games when you play them? Is it an unwind thing, assuming you're not doing it for YouTube?
Well, it is kind of funny because coming from, I think you're right, you and I coming from the perspective of people who've played games our whole lives, that is a funny point to make, that if you're someone who doesn't play games, I don't know what to suggest to you. Because if you don't play games,
right, and
you don't read books, I'm like, I don't know what normal people do. I guess watch Netflix or something. But
yeah.
As for relaxing games to play, I think I almost get what she means depending on what games she has, because I've been unwinding playing XCOM, but it's tactics, it's strategy, and you can turn it down to easy mode, but it's hard, right? You can have a really powerful unit get just murdered by some alien in just one shot, and now you're just crippled until you can have that person replaced. And it's frustrating, and it's tense, and it's stressful, but my brain is wired to really be into that. I find that really fun and exciting. But if I want to relax, if I want to turn the brain off, I know what other games there are to play. I could just, I don't know, pop out the Spyro Reignited trilogy and just go back to my childhood and just play this game that I know like the back of my hand, right?
Yeah.
I think you can kind of go either way. Like, you can have both sides of that. I don't know what games she has on her Switch to relax to.
Well, and yeah, that's a whole other thing too. But because it's interesting, because you recently just got me into, and I'm new to it, but like Stellaris, and which kind of scratched the strategy game itch because I haven't played one of those in a while, actually quite a while, and I've been really getting into it, and all I've been doing I played it for just a handful of hours, and it's like 90% reading, right? And now, granted, reading itself in general you might think is relaxing, but reading in a video game may not sound too relaxing if you're a gamer. It's like, really, just all this reading, right? But I'm into it, and I've always found strategy games relaxing in general, but I understand your point too, which is a lot of the times you kind of have to be on your toes, figuring stuff out. It's supposed to make you think and figure things out and, and plan and all of that, but she did give that perspective because she had a couple games on there. Like, she's got her Animal Crossing. She's got the games that she's been playing for a while. Her Animal Crossing, and she loves Stardew Valley, and then she's got Pikmin, which is like Nintendo's version of a strategy game, and like, but yeah, she was like, even Animal Crossing. We brought that up, and she was like, yeah. No, it works this part of my brain. She didn't word it that way, but that's why I took it. So it's just interesting. Everyone's got their own things, I guess. But for me, almost any kind of game, it doesn't matter if it's intense, laid back. Like, I consider that my relaxation / winding down time, pretty much regardless of the game. You know what I mean? Because pretty much everything else I do, I would consider like work. Even if I enjoy it, it's work. You go to your day job, and then what I do is I come home, and then I sit in front of the computer some more, and I do some work. I make music, or I do this and that. So for me, it's a good separation. I wanted to ask you that because a lot of your, work at home is also playing games in a lot of ways when you're not like editing or whatever.
Admittedly, my day job has nothing to do with a computer. So when I come home and sit in front of a computer, like, I haven't already put in 8 hours in front of a computer. So that aspect of it does bother me less. It's just a matter of, by the time I get home, if I'm in a creative, like, make things mood, or have the lights off, have half my clothes off, have a bowl of chips, and just play some video game, like a weird cave gremlin for a few hours or all night or whatever.
Tell me why my brain, when you said half your clothes off, I went vertically half. For some reason.
Just the left half.
Yeah, the left half is completely gone.
Well, you gotta cool down. That's the half with your heart. That generates a lot of heat when you're playing these adrenaline pumping games. Or the left side of your brain when you're playing these strategy games. You have to cool off those very hot sections of the body. Well,
good save there. That was good. Well, you touched on something that I wanted to talk about with you this week. This is one of the weeks where you have no idea what I'm going to bring up or what we're going to do. These are always fun. So you mentioned your day job. And I thought this week you and I could just talk about the workforce, our experiences working, jobs we've had, whether they're big jobs, small jobs, whatever they are, and just our take overall. So this is the work episode.
This is the work episode.
We can't do that because spoiler alert, that is not the second segment. I don't have like a big what's that game called? Never have I ever. Playing so much. Never have I ever.
So much.
What was it called? Would you rather be a millionaire? It's not. Right. That's not the second segment, but you'll still like it. But that's not right now. What is right now is work, Weston. So I think most of us here know that you work at Subway.
I do.
Why don't you? Can you go over maybe? How'd you get the job? I don't even know if I know that.
I cannot go over this. Story? This is classified information. We have to shut this podcast down. No one's allowed to know. No, I got the job. Can you imagine? I'm like deep undercover as a Subway worker. No, I got the job a long time ago, many moons ago. Actually, it was in 2013, believe it or not.
Holy cats.
Yeah. And I was just a scrub back then. I needed a part-time job while I was going to college. I was going to that community college that we both went to, and I was going to also, I think, I'm trying to remember the time frame. I think I was also still going to the university there as well. I was actually going to 2 colleges at once. I ended up dropping the university side of it to finish the community college side of it, because I was only taking like 1 class a semester at the university as like credits or whatever. I ended up dropping doing that so that I could focus on the community college thing, get my associates through that. But anyway, while I was going to college, I needed a part-time job, pay bills, etc., and I got the job there. And that was also while, for a brief period, our buddy Justin was still working there. So I got to work with him for a while before he moved on with his life, and I did not. But
was he like an influence, or is it more just like like Justin works here too? That's cool.
Yeah, he was a big influence. I don't remember exactly how the conversation happened. I don't remember if I said like, oh, I was looking for a job, and he was like, come work with me, or basically he was like, hey, if you're looking for a job, come here. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm looking for a job. I don't know which one of us brought it up first or how it got broached or whatever, but I knew he worked there, and I knew that I was going to be living in our hometown again. So it was there, and I'm like, well, I already have an in there. If you can put in a good word for me, I'll put in an application. And I talked to him, and he was like, oh, yeah, you'll get the job. And I was like, okay. So I put an application in there, and I put in 2 other applications, actually, as, like, backups, just because it felt like a smart thing to do. Just, maybe they weren't looking for help anyway, Maybe they would hire me, but, So I put in an application at, like, the McDonald's and, like, the Casey's gas station.
Which is exactly the other places that pretty much any kid like at that age would have pretty much applied to.
Well, and I wasn't really even a kid anymore, because we were like, I was graduating high school, I was in college, so it was like I was an adult now, but like true. Also it was still part-time work, so I was still looking for, again, it was like part-time places. So that's what I was thinking, and I didn't want to do like anything that involved me waiting staff, so I didn't go to like the restaurants to be like a waiter or whatever. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to just do something that was I figured might be a little bit more steady. For some reason, a waiting position didn't feel like it would be steady to me, because they earn like tips and stuff instead of like a wage. So anyway, I applied to Subway. I did get that job. I never heard back from Casey's. Maybe they weren't really looking for help at the time. But I got the job at Subway just before McDonald's called me in for that interview, and I'm like, no, I already got hired. Sorry. So otherwise, this could have been a different story. I could have been a McChampion or whatever for the last decade instead of.
Do they have a cute name too?
They do not.
The employees there,
not that I know of. I think I like the idea of McChampion though.
I do like McChampion. When I first heard the sandwich artist thing, I thought that was just like some sort of term that like somebody like in our town came up with. Because I heard, because I was friends with the old owner's son, right?
Yeah.
And he would always, and he worked there obviously for a long time too, like when he was in school.
Right.
And and he would say that, and I always thought, oh, that's just a funny way of him saying it. But then I realized, no, like they're called sandwich artists.
Yeah, that's a real thing, and it's. To me, like, I don't know when exactly, but I've always known that was their official title. And I don't know if that's just because when I heard it, I didn't make the assumption it was like a joke. I just made the assumption, oh, I guess that's what they're called. So I've always known that ever since I ever heard the phrase. But the number of people that think it's a joke is much larger than I anticipated. Like, that... Not so much anymore, but in the past, I remember coming across people like, oh, haha, do they really call you a sandwich artist or whatever? And I'm like, yeah, that's the actual title. And that shocked or tickled a lot of people, which is funny because Subway's been around for like a long time. It's not like a new chain. So this isn't new information, but
Right. And even though I thought it was a joke too at first, I guess in your defense, or in that title's defense, really, like, you're not cooks. Like, you're not. I mean, you bake some stuff, but like, you're not cooking anything.
No.
So you're not chefs. Like, what would you be? Right? You're not a waiter or a waitress. You're a sandwich artist. I mean, I don't know what else you would call that position, honestly.
I mean, the more generic thing would probably literally just be sandwich maker instead of sandwich maker, artist,
I guess.
Or I think that would probably be the most generic thing. Like, I don't know if you ask a Jimmy John's or Jersey Mike's or any of those other sub shops. I don't know if you ask them what their actual title is. Maybe it's just teammate or something. That you hear that sometimes as well in the workforce. But the artist, I don't know where artist came from exactly, because Subway is not like art themed, but the idea was always because the customers sort of make their own sandwich, but the artist has to put it together. It's kind of like the customer is commissioning a sandwich from the artist, kind of, I guess, and you get to watch it happen. I think it's a part of the presentation, which, I mean, if you've ever been to a Subway, most people, most of the artists they're not presenters, they're not entertainers, they're not putting on a show for you. But I've been doing it for so goddamn long. Sometimes I get a little fancy with it, and I get fun remarks like that, like the way I just kind of like twirl a sauce bottle and put sauces and cheeses in. I mean, there's only so much you could do, but like I could do it in my sleep. So I there is a significant difference. Imagine. You know what I mean? I get comments. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, in terms of longevity, I mean, like you've put in a decade at that place.
I don't know.
And
almost.
No, of course you've almost a decade. I mean, you of course changed positions. You've played a little bit of the workforce game. You worked your way up a little bit.
Yeah, I manage the whole store now, so. Yeah.
So you pretty much played every role leading up to that point, right? So like you obviously have the sandwich artist, you got like you have assistant managers. Do you have like any like you don't have like are there like shift managers, I guess? Is that a thing? Subway?
At 99% of Subways, no. Our Subway kind of does, because we're a busier than typical Subway. Actually, I've had our corporate liaison, I was talking to him. He goes around and just checks on stores and makes sure things are up to code, or up to like if there's some new marketing window out that we're supposed to be advertising. He just goes around the stores and checks on things and talks to like the managers or whatever.
Yeah.
He's a super chill guy. But anyway, he was talking to me about some of the figures, because he says he's always impressed with our store and our town. Because he was asking me, like, you seem to get a lot of support. What do you do for that or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know. We're just a very supportive town. Because we pull in terms of just sheer numbers. I can't say the numbers, but in terms of numbers, we are similar to what you'd expect in a much larger city. We for a town our size, we are a Subway that pulls in much more. And so we hire more people too. Our staff is like 14 people right now, when a typical Subway in a town our size is like 7. We have like twice the staff. Yeah, so it's
wild.
We do well, especially coming off a pandemic. Good God, that was terrifyingly slow compared to what we're used to, So we do okay. But yeah, as far as shift managers, that was your original question. I do technically have an assistant manager, which is not super normal. And then I do technically have kind of like a night shift manager, but manager isn't their actual title. It's a shift lead per se.
Right, okay.
And that's just because they don't really have manager. They're not really a manager, and they're not really my assistant, but they kind of act as the in charge person at night, specifically when I'm not there.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about this too before we hit record. Like when I was thinking, okay, we're gonna talk about work today and our jobs and stuff, and I thought, you really haven't had. I mean, you worked at, like, I know you used to work at the baseball field, like for your dad and stuff, and
that was still food. I ran the concession stand.
You did the concession stand stuff, which those were fun times. That was during school, like, because when was that? Middle school, early high school, like around then?
I did it all through high school. I don't think I did it in 8th grade. I don't think so. And I didn't actually live in Gibson 7th grade, so I know it wasn't that. No. When did I not live in? When did I not live in town? I don't remember. I was away for a year. It was at least all through high school.
Right.
So like, I put in 4 years.
Those were always fun. You and your brother would work out there. Because when I think of like an equivalent, I don't really have any equivalents like that. I went into school, to work a few years before you did. I started and I was 15, and I went to the Casey's, the gas station in town. This was before the second one was built. This is the OG one. And yeah, it's a weird thing in our little town that we're from. There's 2 of the same like chain of gas stations, literally like 2 blocks away from each other.
Well, that's because
just right down the road.
The new one, the quote unquote new one, they didn't build that. That used to be what was it? A Phillips or something like that? No, it was not a come and go. It was a Phillips, or it was no, it definitely wasn't, because I had never seen a come and go until some kind of trip. I don't remember if it was a school trip or just a family trip. I was on a trip though, because I bought a deck of cards as a souvenir because it's got the logo of the come and go on it, because I thought it was such a funny gas station.
Right. Well, I remember being a green logo.
Yeah.
Wasn't it green?
I'm my brain is I know it wasn't a come and go, only because it was. Yeah. I swear, I think it was a Phillips 66, but I don't remember what the logo was. It was an old building at the time. I think maybe it was.
Well, either way, yeah, I worked at the original gas station, Casey's there, and that was a really interesting experience, especially at that time, because I remember. I think my parents kind of were like, "Hey, you need to get a job." I definitely wasn't obviously like nipping at the bud to do it, right? But I remember being really nervous, like just to go through that process.
Yes.
And now my stepdad already had he kind of knew the owner, so it was kind of like hey, my stepson's going to be coming in here to apply, and I think there was kind of already this understanding. But he was like, "But no, go in there, do the interview, put in your application, do all that stuff." I just remember being so nervous, like as a 15-year-old, doing that. Just because I'm already kind of a shyer person, surprisingly, some people may think, but I am. But anyway, I went in there and I did it, and I got the job, and that was a really interesting time because I learned a lot about the different people that you can work with.
Yeah,
because
you
learn because it's totally different than like people at your school, right? You got to go from like the 15-year-old kid's perspective. I knew my family, some friends. And then schoolmates, which were mainly all my friends anyway. And then all of a sudden, you're a 15-year-old and you're working with a 45-year-old. And it's just, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, you get it. You got some older people, younger people working at Subway. It's just so bizarre, that dynamic,
Yeah, now I'm the second oldest one at mine.
Which really, I feel like in the food industries, like in that kind of food industry, is pretty young.
Because I know that there were definitely more people that were older than me when I started, but they've all since moved on to other things. So now I'm the second oldest in the building. Right.
Then I'm just trying to think. I'm just trying to quickly go through mine because I have just a few more workplaces I've been at than you. But
you have for sure. You have a more traveled experience than mine.
A little bit, and. Not too much, though, because I know some peers of ours that have had even more jobs. I think I've had, let me count. So I did Casey's. Then after that, I worked. This isn't counting like little odd jobs. This is just jobs I actually went in. I was legally working for an employer. So I did Casey's, and then I went to Pizza Hut. So Casey's also is known for pizza, so I went to one pizza place to another pizza place. I guess I just wanted to stay in the industry. By that point, that was like, I think, senior year or like maybe the leading into the year after high school, right? And that's when we started going to school.
I kind of weirdly forgot that you were at Pizza Hut.
Yeah, Pizza Hut was my first little bit of management experience because I was an acting manager for a short while and when we had no management and stuff. So I got some experience doing that. So many fun stories that I could tell maybe another time. But then after that, I entered into the retail sales side of it all, and I worked in the phone industry, in the wireless industry. So I worked at the time. I worked for they call them authorized retailers, which is basically just like a franchised out company that's legally allowed to sell products from AT&T. Is who it was at the time. So, and I did that like in a mall, and I think you knew that because I think you guys would come in every once in a while because it was all just in the same town we did a bunch of stuff in. So that was a totally different experience going from, once again, by this point I was, I think, 20. I was either 19 or 20. And that was completely different because to me at the time that was like, okay, well clearly I'm graduating from, icky, sticky food, coming home smelling like pizza. And now I'm having to put on a button-down shirt and slacks and and selling people stuff, and like I felt at the time like this was a very good step up, and in some ways it was, in some ways it was a step down, mentally speaking. But that's a different.
Well, I think
that's a personal thing.
I think the work was a step up, but it was also still not where you were meant to be.
Oh hell no! I think that's really what it is. Yeah, for some people, you totally get it. And I actually played that game from 2014 until 2021. So 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So about 7 years I was in that industry. And I learned a lot from that kind of industry. I'm working in the retail/sales because I was also in management there too for through the middle of that. Then I went back down to sales when I switched jobs in the industry. But that I learned. I already knew about working with people. I learned how to kind of manage people a little bit, at least a little bit. I was only a leader of like a team of just a couple people, right? So it wasn't anything wild. But to get some experience doing that, and that's really where I had my experience facing customers a lot, which of course you've done in your own capacity. Mm-hmm. Which I think we've all got our opinions on. I've got very sour opinions of customer service, which we don't have to get into right now because I think you and I talked about having an episode where we just talk about customer stories because there's so many that we could tell.
God, they used to frustrate me so much, but I feel like I've seen just about everything I'm going to see, so now I'm just so not perturbed by anything that walks through the door.
Yeah. Well, sure. Well, especially now too, you have kind of like final say. We talked about this not too long ago.
That's true.
It's like it ends with me.
Yeah.
Right? Anything they're complaining about is not going to go up anywhere past you because that'd be a waste of. I mean, it's already a waste of your time. It's going to be even more of a waste of their time.
I'm no longer concerned with someone complaining to someone above me that could possibly get me in trouble. It's like, I'm it. If you got a problem, you go through me.
That's like the thing. It's like, I want to speak to your manager. And then you turn around and go, I'm the manager.
Absolutely.
Can I help you? So, but yeah, and then my final day job I've been doing for about a year and a half now, and that is I guess my official title would be Content Marketing Manager and Digital Strategy. That's my technical title. Really what it boils down to is I do all the video marketing and some physical marketing for just a small company out here in Memphis. And then I also do all the digital strategy stuff, your SEO, keywords, web, minimal, light web development stuff like that. So it keeps me busy, but that's a lot more in line with what I enjoy, especially the video part. So it's nice kind of going through that. Like, you may not love your job, right? But at least you worked your way up. You kind of did all you could do there, and we kind of talked about growth. Like, you really kind of grew, and you've kind of grown as much as you can grow. Like, at least within, at least by your standards, because I don't think you want to continue on at Subway and try and go into corporate. I don't think that's an interest of yours, right? I don't think it was.
At this point, if I went into the corporate world at Subway, I would be trying to do something that has nothing to do with running a store ever again. I'm in the position I'm at now. Whatever position I go above that, I don't want to be included in a store. I don't want to ever set foot in a store to work there again. Once I'm done here.
Yeah. I totally get that feeling. I felt that way when I left wireless sales. I was like, as soon as this is done, I am never going to go back. Just don't need to. And that's okay because you grow and you kind of do what you can do. One thing that I've always wondered with some people is, and once again, everyone's got their own trajectories and their own paths, but like one thing we both have in common with our work experiences, we both worked in places where turnover can be very high. Like, you have a lot of new people coming and going a lot, at least compared to other, I guess, jobs. And there's some people who I feel like just kind of, they'll show up and then they leave. Like, it's just a month and a half. It's like, what were you doing? Like, and sometimes they would just quit on their own accord. Like, it's not quite what they wanted, or it's like, and I feel like in those moments, once again, I don't know their story, but I feel like it's good to at least really get your feet wet in this job, unless you completely know it's not for you. There's exceptions, of course. But I do have an opinion that I do think it's good to kind of grow as much as you can and learn what you can learn while you're there. Because even if you switch industries after that job, you still learn something valuable, or at least I'd like to think you can, you know?
I figure if you're going to put in the time someplace, you might as well be there long enough to be capable of leaving on a good enough note that you can include that place in a resume or in previous work without shame or without trying to hide it or whatever. There's a lot of people that I know have gone on to get jobs after working like for me or at this store. I know they don't put us down for a review because they wouldn't get a good one, you know, because they didn't do that. They didn't put down the framework to get a good review by the time they left. You know, they come and they go, and it baffles me that at least, again, unless something horrible happened between you and the management, which whilst I've been manager, I like to think that people don't normally have an issue with me. Like, that's not a normal thing. Barring that as a reason to leave a place, because I totally understand that. If you're like, I got to get out of here, I don't really care if I got to get a review from the management because I don't get along with management. I gotta leave. I kind of get that. I've heard those stories from other places for sure. But if you just leave because like the place isn't your vibe or you don't like a coworker, it's like, well, at least leave on a good enough note that you don't have to like pretend you didn't work there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and then I think about they have to go get another job. They can't just not have one. And then I think, how can some of these people get the process of getting a new job? To me, it's so stressful.
Yeah. Like
even if you kind of know you got this job in the bag, to me, it's still a very stressful experience. You know, whether it's the interview process or just learning something new, you know, acclimating to the new environment, whatever that may be, or the new work that you're doing.
Change is scary and hard everywhere.
Right. It's just, I can only imagine doing it every 3 months. That just doesn't, and I know for some people, maybe that's kind of a necessity, but man, it does not sound fun. Now, I've had the problem, one of my biggest lessons learned in the workforce is that I've made it very clear already that I was very unhappy in my last job and when I was in sales and retail. And one thing I learned was that I did the opposite. I stayed too long. Now, I still left on, I guess, fine terms, right? So that part is good. I'm happy to say that. But at the same time, I knew that I was done literal years prior to that. And I still just kind of stuck it out because I was not wanting to put myself out there and try and get that other job,
right?
That would be more suited for me. It's kind of a comfortability thing. It's so much easier to feel comfortable, which is something we can all struggle with. So that was a lesson learned. Like, you know, it's your time, you feel it. Maybe you should push yourself a little bit and go try that new thing if you think you have an opportunity to do so, because that's always a tough thing. So,
yeah, no, I 100% get you. I've been done with my job since about 3 weeks in. No. And I stayed for years. But
listen, but the nice thing with you though, and I know you already know this, but I do just want to say, like, I mean, I'm very proud of you as your friend because, you know, you might have put in a lot of time there and maybe more so than you'd like to admit, but guess what? At least you're running that place. Like, that's cool. That's cool to say.
Yeah.
Not everyone can say that.
And again, with how long I've been there, behind the scenes, there's been a lot that just kind of kept me there that I was like, it's like with going to school and like kind of like not going to school, especially like when pandemic happened, just where I was, it didn't make sense in my brain to leave the job at the time because there were unfinished business outside of the work. So I've been around for a long time. It's just a culmination of so many things, but
yeah. Well, let me tell you this. There's a lot that we can get into with different odd jobs and things we've done, but maybe we can do that another time because right now it is time to move on to our second segment, which you still don't know what it is.
I don't.
But I will tell you this before we go to a commercial break. It is going to be another tier list.
Oh.
What's that going to be? We'll find out after the break.
Break it down.
Profoundish is brought to you in part by Camp Nostalgic Saturday Morning, a show that takes a deep dive into pop culture's biggest questions. I co-host alongside Dave Rediger, and it's a lot of fun. Watch the show and see all the other content offerings at campnostalgic.org.
Profoundish is brought to you in part by HastilyMadeDecision.com. Get your poetry fix from my poetry blog featuring haiku, senryu, freeform stuff, and more. Again, that's HastilyMadeDecision.com for your poetry fix.
We are back. Thank you for listening to our lovely commercial break. I hope you purchase the products that we will. I don't think they're purchasable. I hope you listen to our and enjoy our products that we pitched to you.
I know it's not going to be in the commercial break, but I can sell you some products if you want. I've got some Amazon links. Like, we could just start selling stuff.
Well, I was just thinking, like, you know what? I technically could be selling. I mean, my CD. Songs from Sangamon Street.
That's right.
I believe as by the time this goes live, that will be available. $12 on Amazon. Check it out.
Definitely buy that. Oh, I could double dip. I'll start giving people my Amazon link to your CD. We could both make money on this. You did all the work. I'll make money off of it. Perfect.
But it's still brilliant, though. Do it.
I'll
let you do it.
As long as your product qualifies. I'm an Amazon affiliate. Shh, nobody knows. It's a secret.
I want to do that.
It's super easy. I don't know if anyone's actually used my links because I don't advertise it. I'm a really bad affiliate.
I like how you added that the second time. I'm an Amazon affiliate. Don't tell anybody. And then you go on, I'm a bad
because I don't tell anybody.
Yeah. By definition, that does kind of make you a bad one. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So in front of us here, we're doing a tier list. Since this is kind of the work/jobs episode, I thought what we could do. So I've got a tier list here of a handful of different kind of just occupations, and we're going to rank them from S to D. So S is the best, A is next, B's after that, C, and then D is the worst. Now, there's going to be kind of a little factor here. So I don't think I'm going to tell you. I think I just want you to pick a number, okay? And there's only two. So there's going to be a way that we're going to rank these like by. So I need you to give me either tell me 1 or 2, and then I'll tell you how we'll rank these.
1.
Yes. All right.
I had a 50-50 shot.
Yep. So with all these occupations here, we're going to rank them on how sexy they are.
Okay. What was the number 2?
On how smelly they are.
Okay, I like the sexy one. That's a good one.
So I'll go and list these really quick here, and then we're going to rank them on how sexy they are. Okay. S makes sense. S for sexy.
Yeah.
Being the best. Okay, so we have a librarian, I believe. Tell me if you think I'm wrong on what this is, because these are just pictures. So
sure, librarian.
We got a librarian. I think the next one is a news anchor.
Okay.
Or like a news reporter. After that, we have police. Then we have a priest. We have an architect. This next one, I think I just want to consider just kind of a standard run-of-the-mill office job, if you're okay with that.
Like a salary man. Okay.
Exactly. Next is a clown.
Got it.
Surgeon. I'm going to list these a little bit quicker. Chef. That's like a hacker, if I were to guess. Doctor. We got a bartender. What do you think this next one is? Would you say this is a... like retail?
Yeah, there's like a
counter
shelf with some
clerk?
like shirts. So yeah, like a Gap clerk or a Aeropostale, some kind of retailer of clothes.
Okay. After that, we have a farmer, web development, teacher, garbage man, or I guess what's the official term? Sanitary something?
Yeah,
sanitary
sanitation worker, sanitation officer, sanitation worker. I think
sanitation worker.
Garbage man is what we say colloquially.
Right. Photographer. We got a judge here.
Yeah.
That's a welder.
Yeah.
This next one. What do you think this one is? A cleaning?
Yeah, some kind of housemaid or
cleaning service.
Yes, cleaning service.
Tattoo artist, military, waiter / waitress, Twitch / YouTuber. Maybe we can just say content creator. Maybe I don't know if that's too vague. Then we got a financial advisor, if I were to guess, and then a vet. So out of those, we're going to go through and pick and rank which ones we think are the sexiest and least sexy.
Okay. Okay.
why don't you take it away? We'll go in order here. Why don't you start with the librarian? How sexy is the librarian job to you?
I would like to rank every occupation as S because you're all lovely people out there listening to this podcast, no matter what you do.
That is true. You are.
No, I'm full of crap. So anyway, librarian, is that okay?
Library, that's right.
I will say that there's already definitely like a sexy librarian stereotype. Stereotype, is that the word? I don't think it's a. You know what I'm talking about.
There's like a sexy librarian like fantasy.
Yeah,
like that's a thing.
That's definitely a thing. Like a pair of like giant spectacles and some like hair in a bun or something. And that
I did not know where you were going there. A pair of giant, spectacles.
You know what it is, a pair of spectacles.
That's right.
So with that in mind, I think it's like one of those not underground, but one of those underground sexy occupations. Do we slap that into like A territory? Because otherwise the alternative is like the granny that works at the library, and she's like, "Hey,
Right.
do you need help finding the fantasy section, dearie?"
Or just the classic shh.
Oh, that's true. That is the opposite of sexy. Is just some woman shushing.
That's
you.
not sexy.
Or man.
So I'm going to say A. I'm going to say A. I think I agree with you with A. It's definitely not the sexiest, but it could be. But since it is already considered kind of sexy by many, at least in fantasy-wise, yeah, I throw that up there. I'm down for that. All right, next we have the news anchor.
News anchor is like another
news reporter, news anchor.
Oh yeah, do we want to do anchor or reporter? I guess they're similar.
This picture's a reporter.
Okay. Because earlier you said anchor, and I know that the news anchor is another like stereotype, the sexy news anchor. You know what I mean?
Well, plus they kind of let's say anchor for the sake of it here. I think the news anchors. You got to be pretty. You got to be pretty to be on that TV.
You can't have a face for radio if you're going to be on TV.
Correct. You have to have the face for TV. And there's never been a time where I've watched the news, whether it be local or national, where I've thought, God, that person's just not doing it. I usually will not think anything or go, wow, they're really pretty or good looking. So whether it's them or all the makeup, because men and women both wear makeup on the news, just depending. So I don't know. I think the librarian thing is almost. What do you think?
I was waiting for you to just spout a letter out. Like, what's it gonna be? What's he gonna say?
I don't know. Like, I feel like it's less sexy. I mean, you have to be good looking, but I feel like there's the less sexy factor. You're just kind of giving me the news. There's not a lot of plus. If you want to use the fantasy angle again, I don't think there's a lot of news anchor fantasies.
No, I don't ever see that as like a fantasy type thing. It's just that they're supposed to be good looking, and because it's like usually good looking. Men and women, again, like I said, dolled up, makeup up, but probably in the A territory, right? Like I see you hovering it in B,
okay,
but because it's again like that stereotype A, just because it's I don't know, she's on the TV, right? Right.
And once again, they're always pretty. So yeah, I'll put it at A. I'm going to put librarian ahead of it though. All right, police.
Like, what's that laugh?
I'm just waiting to hear what you say, because I don't know. For me, I mean,
like
I don't. When I think of the police or any law enforcement, I don't go to sexy.
No, well, and as you might well imagine, the police when they're out doing their job are usually not trying to look attractive. They're trying to look, put together, in charge, commanding,
right?
That kind of thing. There is a certain something about that presence, though. I can definitely see from the point of view as a very dominant figure that is definitely a point of attraction for people.
Good
point.
What
I'm saying?
Good point. I do also want to mention that this is also fantasized, if we're going to keep using that angle here, because you think of the typical, like, you hire the stripper to come by,
right?
And they'll be dressed like a cop.
Or like a fireman, which is not on this list, actually. But, like something like that.
No, it's not.
So, again, with that in mind, that's just, well, there is a slight difference. Like a stripper cop I think would be a different profession for sexy than like the police officer, right? Police officer,
completely.
I'm thinking like as like in general, by the time you're getting pulled over, say you're being pulled over by a traffic cop, right? You're not thinking about how sexy they are in that moment, you know? So maybe I'm leaning like
correct.
B or C is what I'm thinking, only because it is up there with that sort of power fantasy, but also when you're being pulled over by a cop, you're not like excited about it.
That's the thing. When the cop is doing, basically what you said is when the cop is doing their job, it's not going to be that sexy to you. I'm going to say C because it's really more like the idea of what the police officer represents.
Right.
And less about their actual job. And this is about the jobs, like, you know, kind of the whole package. So I'm going to say C if you're okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
You know, not, you know, I do see your point about the kind of having that authority as a point of attraction for people, and I think that's a solid place to put it.
And I definitely see that people are going to probably disagree with that one, but I'm okay with that. You know, like it could have been higher, but we're trying to see it from like, well, what if you're the one in trouble? Then it's all of a sudden a little less sexy.
A little less sexy. Now, this is going to be an interesting one. We've got a priest here. Now, I'm sure there's a million jokes that somebody could make. But we're here just to see if this job of being a priest is sexy.
Well, and like you're not again in terms of positions that are not intended to be sexy. You know, imagine you're in the like house of God, right? You're supposed to be humbled. You're usually wearing these like kind of baggy robe things. It's about you know, taking the attention off of oneself and giving it to the Lord. You know, like it's supposed to be a sexy position.
Well, plus, depending on the kind of priest that you are, they kind of vow against any sort of relationship,
like celibacy.
Sexual or otherwise. So celibacy, yeah. So, I mean, that's something to consider too.
I don't think I know anyone in my life that has ever like had their rocks knocked off by a priest. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking like D territory.
Which one did you say?
D territory.
Yeah. I would say D. Me neither.
It's not
to what you said. I couldn't word it better.
It's not a sexy position, you know.
It's not. It's really not. I mean, think about it. You're up there. You're reading the word. You're not up there, and that's what it's about, right? It's not about being sexy
at all. It's not a sexy position, and it's not supposed to be. Absolutely. And
it's not supposed to be. And in fact, it's literally, and depending on how you spin it, it's wrong in some ways. So, you know, it's literally quite the opposite, depending on, once again, it does depend on the flavor. There's a lot of flavors in that.
Sin and debauchery out of here. Lust is one of the 7 deadly sins, I'll have you know.
Exactly. All right. I cannot believe you said that the rocks off. That is one of my favorite things you've said on Profoundish. But it's true. Who's seen that? I haven't. All right. Next, we have an architect. Is that sexy?
Like I'm imagining, you know, a dude in a very like tight button-up blue shirt, right? You know, like thick glasses, leaning over this blueprint or something, like telling what engineers need to like figure out or something like that. Like I feel like because we have salary person coming up next. But I feel like of salary people, architect is like the sexy version of a salary person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you're not just sitting there just kind of at a computer. You're doing math. You're building plans. Like that's pretty cool. The job itself seems cooler, and that kind of plays into the sexiness.
Yeah, and it's this combination of you're kind of an artist too. You know, you're kind of mathematical, so you're kind of sciencey. You're kind of artist, so you're kind of creative. Like in terms of like a salary person who's a thinking person, it's like a sexier position actually. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know where that puts it.
I'm with you on that.
I see you hovering around maybe B.
I'm thinking B. I think B's solid.
Yes, B's solid.
I don't have I think it's right in the middle there. I don't have a better spot for it because it's definitely more of a. I would put it above like the police officer. And not quite where like the pretty news anchors are, because like where the news anchors are in the A category, once again, it's more about a part of their job is about how they look, literally.
Right.
You mentioned, like, you're picturing the architect in their tight button up and all that. Like, but at the end of the day, they don't have to look like that. So
No.
I'm putting you. I think I'm going to put it right at B there. I think that's good. So next up, what are you calling this? Just like the salary
salary
job?
person, desk worker, bean counter, button pusher,
Data entry,
Yeah.
whatever, that sort of stuff. You're run-of-the-mill, working at the desk, office job. Is it sexy?
No.
To me, it seems like a very mundane job. I don't really think about it being sexy.
I'm imagining a bunch of pasty people under fluorescent lighting. Like, it's just not working.
Yeah. Even if you think about like for example, like if you think of the show The Office, like obviously one thing that show is known for is its romance between the two main characters. But even that was never like, it's weird because the romance was never romanticized, if that makes sense at all. Like it was like it's still like these two average people in an office and they just like each other. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of agreeing with you. I would put it obviously above the priest, but I'm probably thinking D.
I'd put it in D too. This is not a sexy job. Which
It's just not.
It's just not. A small addendum in the A category, we have librarian and the news anchor. Maybe we should put news anchor above librarian, since they're like supposed to be kind of like, you know what I mean? They're intentionally trying to be better.
I think you're right.
I say swap those two.
I think you're right.
There you go.
Let's put those up there. Let's do that.
Huh?
I think you're right.
No, I mean
I
meant just put news anchor ahead. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, agreed.
Everyone at home can't see the demographic, but I was like, yeah, you know what? We'll rearrange this. We'll go through the order later. Don't you worry.
That makes more sense. All right. Don't you worry, kiddos. Next up, speaking of kids, we've got the clown. Now, our picture that we have here is the it.
Yeah,
clown?
Pennywise from
No.
It. Yeah, put him in S tier.
But
Gotta love Pennywise. Sexiest clown I've ever known. Who doesn't like clowns?
Have you ever thought of any clown as...
Who doesn't
Well, I
like
don't
clowns?
like 'em.
No one's ever not liked a clown.
Have you ever really looked at a clown, though, and went...
Every time.
You know,
oh,
kinda
man.
like, hey.
It really steams my collar, clowns.
Get your rocks off, right?
I was trying to think of something that was not rocks off. I was like, steams my collar. Steams,
Like, I already used that
really
one.
steams my greens,
That really steams my broccoli. Well, realistically, I can't. No, I mean,
No.
a lot of people fear them. Jokes aside, some people nothing them, and other people think they're funny, I guess.
The only thing that's made clowns sexy is like, especially in recent years with the Harley from the Joker and Batman, all that, like the Harley craze
Yeah.
where she's been super popular. That's the only like sexualized version of a clown thing that I can think of.
And that's pushing it.
And that's that's like the exception, not the rule, right?
Yeah, because I think most times when you think of a typical clown, you think of the birthday clown.
Right.
You get the red nose.
And again, people
people
are terrified of clowns. So
yeah, like I can't see myself in a situation where I'm attracted to squeezing a person's red nose. I mean, making a noise.
Well, when you say
and
it
their
like
big
that.
shoes. When you say it like
you
that,
get
it
to
changes my
squeeze
mind.
their nose and big shoes. Oh.
Big shoes. Well, you know what they say about people with big shoes?
Big feet.
Big socks. Okay, similar. We were on the same vein. So, I would personally put this. I don't know what you think, but I would put it after the priest, but before.
See, this is
the
okay. So this
office
is interesting. So it's going into D, but you think that clowns are sexier than priests? I'm just saying.
Well, I'm still putting.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I guess looking at it that way, you're technically right, is what I'm saying. Well, it's like, but the priest, it's like it's a no-no. That's kind of what I was thinking. Like, you can't go above the priest.
But that's kind of like taboo.
At the end of the day,
Makes it kinda...
I would probably find the priest more sexy than the clown. So I'm glad you called me out on that. I am going to move it. Like, in what world would I find a clown sexier than a priest?
Just,
you know what I mean?
to put it into that perspective,
I don't know.
Just really needed to keep you in check.
Right, thank you. So we have a surgeon. Now, I immediately go to, it's kind of similar to like how people look at maybe like someone with kind of like in authority attractive.
Yeah.
I picture that the same way with the surgeon. You're clearly, you're disciplined in your practice. You're very smart. You went to, you're a doctor.
And you're probably rich.
And you've got money. That seems sexy to me. Like, what'd you do at work today, honey? It's not, I had to file some paperwork and make some calls. And, it was
saved a few lives, that's all.
Exactly. I saved a few lives today. Like, I fixed this guy's heart today. His heart. So I'm going to put this, where do you think? I'm up in the SA area.
Do we just say surgeon is just so far the sexiest occupation we've seen so far and just put an S?
The way we talked about it, yeah. It is. Now we have the surgeon of the kitchen, if you will, the chef.
The surgeon of the kitchen.
I don't know how that makes sense, but
okay.
They're not cutting open maybe they're cutting open their food. You never know.
They do work with a lot of knives, yeah.
That kind of works. You heard it here first. The chef is just the surgeon of the kitchen. Spread that on and see if it sticks. So the chef. Some people say the way to, for example, the way to a man's stomach is... the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And there's... that's always something to consider. Food can be romantic. Cooking food together can be romantic.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else. Well, then again, though, that's like cooking food with your loved one. That's not like...
That's not professional
the chef in the back room at like a 5-star restaurant.
I'm imagining the chef from the movie Ratatouille, like the little angry one, that's like trying to sell fast food versions of the restaurant. I don't remember what his name is. I'm imagining him as the chef, and I'm like, it's making it hard to rate chefs on the sexy scale because I'm picturing I'm picturing him.
That's a bad image. Well, let's look at it this way. Would you say a chef is sexier than a cop?
Again, it kind of depends. I kind of almost want to, because the reason you're saying that is because the police officer is the only thing in the C territory right now. So, where's the chef going to go, above or below that area? I kind of want to say above because of what you were kind of saying with the way to a person's heart can be through their stomach, and being able to cook really well, I think it is potentially attractive. So seeing someone hard at work in the kitchen, basically turning ingredients into fine cuisine is like a certain kind of a magic. You think of what's the you think the elixir of love, like ambrosia, not the actual ambrosia dish, which is some weird whipped cream thing. No, the mythical ambrosia, right? That could make people fall in love and live long lives. There's something magical about cooking. So I think above the police officer, the question is it still in C territory or is it B territory?
Right. I think if you were to ask me personally, I would, especially after what you just explained, because you gotta look at it this way too. A chef is giving you nourishment, and that's something that an architect's not doing. And I think in the right way, that can be considered you can be attracted to that. Look what they're doing for you. They're doing this for you. I would put it in the B above architect.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
What do you think?
We can absolutely do that.
All right.
Because if we go back to Ratatouille,
the surgeon of the kitchen.
If we go back to Ratatouille, that one lady chef, the romantic interest, she's pretty sexy. I'm just saying. So maybe I shouldn't. I'm just going to put it out there. I know no one else has ever thought that before. I'm just saying.
Well, I did. So we're together on this. This is a common ground we have with attraction. This is interesting. We should go back to this.
We'll talk. We'll exchange pictures later.
Yeah, we'll talk later. So next we have a computer hacker.
No,
the bad boy, if you will.
See, you say it like that, like you're trying to make it sound sexy, but it's just some pasty kid in a basement.
It's not
right?
sexy. You're right. I'm not really attracted to pasty kids in the basement.
The movies, when, again, Hollywood has no idea what hackers do, because you see them, smashing away at a keyboard and
crunching numbers.
Green screens with just words flying out. They don't know what hacking is. So, Hollywood tries to make hackers look sexy, That's Hollywood. Like, that's just Hollywood, you know?
Right. Real hackers, yeah, you're right. It's not that, even a little bit.
It's scary. It's not a sexy job. It's scary. You don't know what they're up to.
It is. It may be scary, but I would still be more attracted to a hacker than a clown.
Sure.
Are you okay with this? But I'm still gonna be hitting up the priest though before the hacker. So I think that's a good.
Okay.
You know.
That's
a good line.
I'm all right with that.
So next, this should probably be a quick one because it's kind of similar in vein to the surgeon. We have, I'm just going to call this like just a standard medical doctor.
Yeah, we had two medical professionals here. Surgeon, I think, is above doctor because of its like sort of specificity. Agreed. But doctor still hits a lot of the same points that surgeon does. So
yeah. So we're going to put that up in the S tier right before surgeon. Sure. Next, we have the bartender. Somebody who tends bar. Now, this is an interesting one. Totally different field. But I still think this can be a very sexy job. And
it kind of, like, if you want to work it for those tips or whatever, like, you should be put together and you should be attractive, whether physically or at least charismatically.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And trust me, you can really carry that charisma a long way the more you, provide drinks to your to your guests, right?
The more
you'll become more attracted to them as the night goes on.
The more your guests drink, the more that they're suddenly interested in you.
So I think it's a sexy job. You know how to make drinks. You know, usually your personality, once again, your charisma really can come through there if you're doing your job right. So I think when a bartender does right, that's pretty sexy. I'm thinking between A and S.
I don't know about S.
I don't know what you're
only
thinking.
Because bartender, like, it sounds like it should be really high up there, but also, if done wrong, if bartenders are negligent or bartenders aren't, like, with it or whatever, that can be a huge turnoff. You know what I mean? Not that the bartender's there to turn you on. Like, don't get me wrong, the bartender's there to do a job. But if you know what I mean? Like, a bartender's not, like, their job isn't eye candy. But if a bartender's not, like, on their game, their, like, level, like, that attraction feature, like, figure or whatever slides downhill quick. You know what I mean?
I could just see Weston going up to the bar. He sits down. The bartender comes up and goes, "Listen, I am not here to turn you on. What do you want to drink?"
Well,
he just makes it clear.
I wasn't thinking about that, but now that you've said it, all I can think about.
Yeah, what if that's a like reverse psychology trick? You know?
Okay, I guess I will have a sex on the beach.
You on.
Thank you.
I will. Yeah, I will have sex on the beach. Okay, so I'm okay with A, especially after you explained that, because, the highs can be high, but the low can be low as well. Where are you thinking in context with the others? We have a librarian and a news anchor.
I think probably supposed to be above librarian, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. News anchor still, I think, I'm going to put up there because I think there's less room for them to do their job poorly because there's a whole team. Yeah. There's a lot of accountability there. They got makeup, they can easily turn the cameras off quickly.
Yeah, part of their job is to look good for a camera, and that's why they have a makeup department or whatever. Like, that's like that comes with the job. Right.
Okay, next we have kind of like the retail sales clerk. Like clothes kind of retail, like your, I don't know, like a JCPenney or something, right? Something like that. Where are you thinking? I immediately, without even giving it much thought, kind of went dead center.
It's weird because, like, it's not a sexy position. It's just, like...
No.
Like, it's some person working on, a minimum wage job selling me clothes or whatever at the cash register. You know what I mean? It's not a sexy position.
Right. But it's not a, like, working under the fluorescent lights kind of just dead inside job either. So
you're not squirreled away in an office. You are in the public eye. I don't know.
You're talking to people.
I'm talking about like top of like C category, just because it's like no one's ever like, oh, you work at a JCPenney's. Ooh, that's exciting. No, it's not a sexy position.
Right. You measure people cool.
I'm not trying to knock anyone that does that work. We just talked about what I do for a living, okay? So like I'm not trying to knock the position. I'm just saying it's not a sexy position.
Right. You can be sexy and have the job.
Sure.
Right. Like, you can be sexy. But, the job itself, does it ooze sexuality? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Now, one thing that might is the farmer.
See,
Hear me out.
Go on.
Hear me out here. Hear me out. Talk about a provider. That's sexy. Someone who can provide for you. They're like, it's kind of, I put the farmer in a similar, well, I was thinking of the chef, but then again, it's like, kind of what they're doing might be sexy, but their day-to-day is not sexy. You're hot, you're sweaty out in the field, you're plowing the field, you're in a tractor. I'm kind of backtracking
Yeah,
now.
see, my experience with farmers is the group of old dudes that sit at my store and have their sandwiches, sit around a table and talk about beans and corn prices and politics, and they're just kind of like, so the fields are looking kind of crap today, Bob, and it's not.
It's not going to be a good season.
It's not a sexy position.
Okay. Just, yeah. I guess I was playing that angle maybe a little too hard with their providers.
No, that's just it. Like, if you're trying to domesticate, you're like, I want to sit down and have a family, and a farmer's got, like, I don't know, 1,000 freaking acres or whatever they're farming, and they're like, I don't know, they can be a good provider, but it's not sexy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, I hear you. You sold me on that.
Then again, those farmersonly.com commercials, I mean, whew.
Well, but there's a reason why it's farmersonly.com. It's only farmer to farmer action, like it, it's not.
Them city folk just don't get it.
Is that what they say?
Something like that. That's like their tagline.
City folks just don't get it.
Yeah, that's literally what they say.
Farmersonly.com. I remember the song. What are you thinking?
Yeah,
D?
somewhere in the
C?
D category. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
I think so. If you were have to get kind of hot and heavy, would you rather get hot and heavy with a farmer or a priest?
Well, hang on a second.
What do you think about that?
I guess the farmer, right? I guess. Again, there's still that weird like taboo-ness with the priest thing, I guess. I don't know. Kind of a toss-up, though, weirdly.
It is. What a weird toss-up. Farmer versus priest. Epic rap battle history!
Farmer versus priest.
Right, exactly. What? Okay, so next we have a web developer.
See, that's like above, like, that's definitely above, like, salary person. But it's still...
It is above salary person, but it's still kind of... I know what you're going to say. It's still kind of like the dude in the basement who stinks.
Well, it's not the dude in the basement, though, because that's like the hacker. It's the dude in the office designing web pages, but it's probably for a tech firm, and they probably make web pages for like a zillion other companies. So they're not just filing paperwork, you know what I mean? Like, a web developer is probably making more money. They're probably like got some sort of fancy technical position at like a tech firm or something. It's got a little bit more going on where it's definitely above like salary person, but I don't know how much more because the job itself still isn't like sexy. It's still office work, which admittedly,
it's still office work.
Maybe it's still, is it just as sexy as like an architect would be, or a little somewhere in between salary person and architect?
Well, hold on. Like if we're talking about the occupation itself, I feel like I would have a lot more fun of a conversation talking with an architect about their job than a web developer. Okay. And I think that even if I knew a lot more about coding and everything that they do, I just feel like that conversation could not really go as long. I'm okay with B because I do in some ways kind of see it in a similar category because it's a good job, probably making decent money. They know their way around kind of web technology, computers, all that. I would probably put it before the architect.
Yeah. I didn't know if it should go like top of the C section above retail or below like bottom of the B,
I'd say web developer's a little bit sexier than the JCPenney employee.
Okay, we'll put it in B.
I think. Next up, I think this is going to be interesting. We've got the teacher.
Teacher.
Now, this looks like... Now, just like a general, looks like an elementary school teacher.
Like in the picture, yeah, that looks like some kid at the chalkboard. But I mean, realistically, like elementary or middle or high school teacher, some kind of teacher, not like professor, teacher.
Right. Now, we should bring up this angle again. The teacher's heavily fantasized.
Yeah.
That's a common one. So, I don't know. I mean, you hear a lot of stories about students, having a crush on their teachers. And I think I put this in pretty sexy spot. Assuming that you're... Like, the job itself isn't sexy. You're just teaching somebody.
Listen, I also
guess.
went to school for teaching for a little bit, and some of them teachers-to-be were pretty spicy, is all I'm going to say.
Okay. Well, and maybe they were thinking that about you.
I couldn't tell you. I don't know that. But, like, all I'm saying is that, like, I get it. But, like...
Yeah, for sure.
But is it a sexy job? Is it a sexy profession? Because it's also sometimes, like, not the sexy profession, right?
I think this is one of those rare cases where, like, since teachers can easily be so sexy, I think if they're sexy enough, the job is sexy. Like at least to the people involved in the job, which would be the students or faculty. I would be much more interested in learning about, chemistry from my sexy teacher versus, Mr. Bub,
well,
70 years old, ready to retire, and
I'm even taking out of the equation in my mind the idea that I'm their student, because that's like so weird of a dynamic to discuss in terms of the profession itself. But when I think about it, I think about one of two things. One, we rated the librarian very highly, and I feel like the teacher should be on par with the librarian, right? But at the same time, like,
at least
it's also like a highly disrespected field where people like routinely don't like teachers and what they're doing for so many disparate like variations of student, you know what I mean? So like it's such a weirdly disrespected profession. Like I want to put it up in A, like next to librarian somewhere, because that feels like similar occupations to me. But then they're just so disrespected as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think it'd be easier to fall in line with thinking like the bartender experience is sexy. I think I would put it before the bartender, but after the librarian.
Okay, let's do it. Let's just go for it.
So next we have the garbage.
Sorry,
man.
It's just not a sexy position. It literally stinks.
It's not. It literally stinks. Now here's the real question: who you doing it with? A clown or a garbage man? I mean, or where in the D tier is it going to go?
I don't know. I'm thinking about trash. It has to be bottom, right? It's like the worst one we've said, right? I'm just thinking about trash. I've dealt with trash. It stinks. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, fine. It's hard for me, but I can respect that.
I'd rather roll around with the clown.
Yeah, if I were going to roll around with somebody, like if they're both rolling around on the floor waiting for me, and there's a garbage man just fresh off a shift or a clown fresh off the shift, I'd rather play
Twister with the clown.
Going for the clown. Exactly. Photographer.
That's one that's like, I think the exotic sort of photographer that can make you look amazing no matter what. There's something about that. Artistic. It's a sexy spot.
Yeah. That's pretty sexy. I'm definitely putting it between A and S.
Ooh.
I think, because I love it can be kind of mysterious too. Like, a lot of these photographers are very, they just kind of like some other artists in different fields.
Alex just wants to put photographer at S because Stephanie does photography. I'm just saying.
And she's the sexiest one. She's the sexiest photographer there is.
I'm just going to put that out there, and I'm just going to let Alex put it wherever he wants to.
Well, if that's the case, I mean, it's going up to S.
I have no say in this place.
It's going up to S. You have no say. That's right. You're not dating one. So, what do you really think, though? I mean, I actually do think S, because I love the... It's kind of mysterious, too. Like...
Yeah, you think...
They've all got their own flavor, and it's very creative. And I've always... Maybe I'm biased because I am a creative person, too. But, I mean, as are you. Like, creative stuff There's just I don't know. It's very emotionally sexy
What
to
was
me.
that weird
that makes
movie
sense.
with Steve Carell played in it, and he worked at like Time Magazine, and he lost the photo of the last like cover photo before this like magazine gets bought out or whatever. Maybe they got bought out by Time or something like that. So he has to find the photo, but to do that, he has to find the photographer of the photo. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know that movie?
I don't know if I've ever seen that one.
That's a.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of his
I
movies.
know.
Too.
I
don't
think
know.
you said you wanted to see it. This is a movie that I've seen. That I think you wanted to. I'm trying to look this up right now. The point I was bringing this movie up for, though, is because that photographer in that movie is what I think of when you think of like the artistic photographer, the one that travels the world, goes to exotic places, captures these timeless moments. There's something sexy about that. So that's what I'm imagining, and that's a very, I think, attractive field.
Yeah, it's almost like they're very like culturally seasoned. Especially with like you mentioned the traveling and stuff. Like, I'm thinking S before the Doctor. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
You're looking for that movie,
I am,
aren't you?
but I think that's a good spot for it too. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Oh, that's Ben Stiller.
Ben Stiller, not Steve Carell. Ben Stiller.
They both have the big schnozzes, so I understand why you probably
just
got them
probably
mixed up.
remembering it combined with another movie. But Ben Stiller in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
You and I think we saw that movie together.
We didn't see it together. I remember talking to you about it. I don't remember
sure?
why I saw it. I think I saw it with family. I don't think I saw it with you.
I thought, okay, well, I saw it with friends, and I loved that movie so much that I went to go see it again. So
maybe we did see it together,
fact,
and I just don't
think,
remember. I did think it was Ben Stiller, so maybe I'm combining experiences in my head.
Maybe we watched it the second time together. I could have swore you were there because I think we also watched it at our friend Justin's house, like later on.
I don't remember now.
I don't know. So next up, we get just a few left here. What about the judge? Or not the the judge.
I'm thinking right before Architect, maybe after. B.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any reason why, or
judges are just kind of sexy, but also kind of not? Just right in between. Exactly.
Right between, I like that.
That's all I got.
Well, because it's definitely above the cop because they can kind of take action. They're quite literally kind of determining fate.
We don't
a little
have
bit,
lawyer
right?
on the list,
And
so it's got to be something.
Yeah, I like it. Next, we have a welder.
I don't know. D, top of D, bottom of C, top of D.
I hate to see it. Yeah, I'm gonna say top of D because a lot of times these seasoned welders, they're making great money.
Oh yeah.
The job is just
rough,
not really sexy. It's pretty rough.
It's blue collar.
So yeah, I'm fine with D.
There's nothing wrong with being into a blue collar man or whatever, but when you think welder, you don't think ooh sexy.
Exactly right. Man, this would have been a totally different list if we would have picked smelly, like the smelly jobs. We could always go back to this.
The trash man would have been S.
I know. Complete opposite. Okay, next we have what were we going to call this? The cleaning service.
Which is, just to be clear to everyone at home, the picture we have here is not like the French maid picture, right? We don't have that going. We just have a woman with cleaning supplies is what the picture is. So like when you think like just house cleaning service, I don't think sexy because it's still a lot of cleaning. It's kind of it's kind of like the trash man, but just less stink,
Yeah. I think I would put it. Well, I'm putting it in D, and maybe the picture's slightly influencing this, but like I would put it up a little bit farther in D.
What? Yeah.
Like I think I'd rather go for the cleaning lady than like the farmer.
Okay.
Maybe even more so than the salary gal. I don't know. No. I changed my mind. What do you think?
I'm okay with that. Yeah, sure. D category
what were you
right
thinking?
before
Because you sound a little hesitant.
No, I'm not hesitant. I just don't really know. It's not a job that screams sexy. So like, sure, yeah.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. I'm curious your take. We have a couple left. The tattoo artist.
For people who are really into
What do you
tattoos, probably really up there. I'm not into tattoos. When I think of tattoo, this is so biased. When I think of tattoos and tattoo artistry, I kind of think grungy and dirty. But that's just because like movies and things I've seen where like, you know, the movies are like dark and like getting tattoos in alleys and stuff. It's not even, again, I don't have tattoos, so I don't even go to real parlors. I'm just thinking of like weird scenes from darker movies. So when I think tattoos, I'm not thinking sexy in terms of like the tattoo artist. But at the same time, I recognize there is something very exotic about the artistry behind it. So at the same time, it is higher up, but I have like conflicting feelings about it.
I totally get it. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up the artistry part of it, because that's not easy work. And you know, if they do it right, they do it right. It's kind of similar though to the bartender, where they can be really bad too, and that's not sexy. So we need to keep that in mind. But when they do it well, I've seen some amazing, incredible tattoos.
And with that in mind, I think we should put it up with like the bartender, because I think if you're the type of person that's into tattoos and knows that field, I think you'd understand it as being a very like sexy feel, like the artist, right? I think it should go up there. I don't feel that way myself, but like the profession, I could see belongs up there, maybe.
I share the same opinion with you, and I think for that reason, let's put our opinion in this spot here. I personally would probably put this the last part of
Bottom
A right
of
now.
A.
So behind the teacher and the librarian. Sure. Yeah. I think it's a fair compromise. All right, next we have, are we just going to call this just kind of like military in general?
Yeah, it looks like I assume that looks like army fatigues. So like someone in the army, but some kind of military personnel. Again, you're not really supposed to be sexy. You know what I mean? And that it reminds me of where we put the police officer, right? Maybe just like above police officer. I don't know. It's a very similar field, but you're in the military instead of domestic enforcement.
I think, you know what, I'm going to leave it as simple as this. I think a camouflage looking suit's a little sexier than a police uniform. For me, personally. So I'm going to go with that. So yeah, above the police officer in the C tier. Next, we have the waiter. Now, this looks like a waiter at kind of a high-end restaurant. Now, a part of a waiter's job, I mean, it depends how you look at it. It's kind of similar to the bartender situation. You know, you're there to make sure your guests are comfortable. If you're charismatic, usually it's a better experience for everybody. And once again, I mean, you are kind of the face of this establishment, whatever the establishment may be. And I think a lot of the times, not that you know, you can be beautiful, you can be not so beautiful and still be a waiter. That's fine. But I think that plays a part.
But I do think that
if we're just being honest.
And I agree, but with the caveat that I think the bartender, because they're involved in mixology, it's a little bit more of an exotic position. So I don't think wait staff gets quite as high as bartender, but I do think that they're in the same sort of world as retail, like the clothes retail that we have in C. So it's either, in my mind, top of C or somewhere in B. I don't know that it quite reaches A category. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I'd be fine with C. And I would put it just barely above. I think top of C, barely above the retail clerk.
Yeah.
Now here's an interesting one.
Yeah.
We have the picture shows a Twitch/YouTuber, so Twitch streamer.
Yeah,
or
I
YouTuber.
assume we could just call this maybe streamer, since
Streamer,
that's what you do on Twitch. Maybe they're going for the Twitch stream, YouTube stream. So like a streamer.
Yeah, because YouTube is way too vague.
Right.
So, because there's a million different things you could do on there. Yeah, let's do a streamer. Let's do streamer. We both stream our various content.
True. So this is top of the S category.
So are we sexy? Yes.
Top of the S. I mean, without question.
Next. Literally next. All right. Financial advisor.
No further explanation
we're sticking to
necessary. This. Financial advisor.
Not right.
Below web developer in the B category. I have no idea. What do you think? I just spat that. I just spat that out because I was looking at web developer. Where do they go in relation to web developer?
I would put it below web developer, and I would put it above waiter because the job it's a better job. Okay, if you're that's an opinion, I suppose, but I think it's a more established job. And I think it's just I don't know. I think it's a little more respectable in general. I'll put it that way. It's a more respectable
put yourself
job.
In a tight,
whether it should be or not is a different story.
Tight
but it
white button-up shirt. Put a good tie on or whatever. Talk some dirty numbers at me. Ooh.
Right. Yeah, man. Give me those 6s. Yeah. So yeah, I'd put it below web development.
And finally,
finally, I think some passionate people would easily put this in S. This is
the vet.
The vet.
And the thing is,
now,
right, it's like doctor, but people are crazy about animals.
They are. They really are. Like, what's sexier than a man or a woman who can fix your dog?
I can't
You know?
speak for men on dating apps because that's not the flavor I prefer on dating apps. But I can tell you that the vast majority of women in existence don't need to be on a dating app. They need to be dating animals, apparently, because that's what they care about. They say so. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I used to see that crap all the time when I was on dating apps.
If your attraction apparently goes up tenfold if you own a dog or a cat, just owning one. They don't want to date you. They want your pet.
Yeah,
and vets work
right.
with them
we
all
need to
the
find
time.
A way.
So that's what I mean. Their attraction is like a doctor, but it's elevated because they're working with pets.
But we do need to put in our opinion here too. Now, neither you or I are really big pet people, so I mean, like I understand that is a kind of a it makes sense why you said that. So I mean, I personally though, let's look at the tattoo, right? So we put the tattoo artist up there farther than maybe we would have just in a different light. So, and I would be with. I think I'd find the vet a little more sexy than the tattoo artist.
I'm still
personally.
thinking, it just needs to go up to like the S category, maybe under doctor.
You're still thinking S, okay.
because it falls in line with just doctor, but for pets. You know what I mean?
it's doctor, but for pets. Somebody came up with that idea when, like, there's all these animals. They started to domesticate animals, and, like, they're all getting sick. Like, we got to do something. And some guy in the town hall, we need a doctor for pets. You know what I mean?
That's exactly how it happened.
Well,
we did it.
We did it here. Weston, do you want to go through our ranking of the sexiest jobs?
The sexiest jobs from top to bottom. In the S category, we have streamer, surgeon, doctor, vet, and photographer. In the A category, we have news anchor, bartender, teacher, librarian, and tattoo artist. In the B category, we have chef, architect, judge, web developer, and financier. In the C category, we have wait staff, retail clerk, military person, and police officer. And in the D category, we have welder, salary person, house cleaner, farmer, priest, hacker, clown, and the trash man.
I just feel, maybe with some exceptions, I just feel like D is like, it's got to be pretty much the same for everybody. I don't know.
I don't know. Someone out there, clowns, I'm just saying, maybe that's their thing.
They're down to clown. They're down to clown.
Someone. So, I'm just saying.
Oh my goodness. I mean, you're right. You're very right. Well, Weston, this was fun. It was fun talking jobs with you today.
It's always fun to talk to me.
Just ask me. I'll tell you all about it.
I do it all the time.
Weston, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at my website, westonhasty.com. But the big thing that I push all the time is my gaming YouTube channel called Magic Man Mo. Check it out if you're into gaming and streams and that kind of thing. If you want to see a sexy streamer doing some gaming, that's me. Come check me out. Magic Man Mo, youtube.com.
Check him out.
That's right.
It's fun stuff. It's always fun to tune into his streams. And if you like me more than him, well, sometimes I pop into streams too, and you can chat with me. How about that?
There you go.
So there's a win-win for everybody. Nah, just kidding. But you can follow me at the best place to go to see everything I do is alexduquette.net. Easy to remember. I recently put out a new album called Songs from Sangamon Street. You can stream that right there or any platform of your choice, so check that out. You can also go to my YouTube channel. I'm just typing my name once again, Alex Duquette, and you can see my medleys. I do TV show theme song medleys where I take a bunch of little bits of theme songs and put them in together into one cohesive musical experience, and it's a lot of fun. What about Profoundish? Where can people do the Profoundish thing?
They can do the Profoundish thing, of course, wherever you're listening to this. We're available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Check us out on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at Profoundish Pod to say, hey, what's up?
Say, hey, what's up? And then after that, go check out our streams because we've just deemed being a streamer the sexiest job that you can have. So check us out. We're out of here, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Sexy.
Sex!
No, sexy.
Sex.